Today's lesson is Legends in Lava, the role of volcanoes in mythology. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we are going to talk about volcanoes. And we could talk about the scientific aspects of volcanoes, whether they're going to erupt, where the lava is coming from. But actually today we're going to be focusing on volcanic legends, stories that are based on volcanoes. And these stories come from all over the world.
Right. So the title is Legends in Lava. That's the first part of the title. And legend is a very old and popular story, but when we talk about a legend, we're not sure if that story is actually true or not. There are a lot of legends in ancient Greece and in ancient Rome, and these legends usually surround heroes, but we are not sure if these heroes actually lived, if the things that they did are actually true.
Exactly. And of course, lava is the molten rock that comes out of a volcano. So, of course, we've got a couple of L words here to give you a rather catchy sounding title, Legends in Lava, the role of volcanoes in mythology. And we'll begin our lesson by looking at the first paragraph and introduce this topic to you.
Legends in Lava, the role of volcanoes in mythology. Volcanoes have fascinated humankind with their earth-shaking eruptions and fiery displays for ages. It's no wonder, then, that they've played prominent roles in myths from around the world. Here are just a few of the many legends about these powerful forces of nature.
大家好，标题中我们来介绍名词 legend， 它的意思是传说故事、传说或是传奇人物。例如 Morris wasn't sure whether his uncle's story was true or just a legend. Morris 不确定他叔叔说的故事是真的或者只是个传说故事。又或者说Rick is a legend at the local bowling alley. Rick 在当地的保龄球馆是个传奇人物。接下来我们看到名词 volcano， 它的意思是火山。例如 The city was built near an active volcano. 这个城市建在一座活火山附近。又或者说 The ash cloud of the volcano could be seen from space. 从太空可以看到这个火山的火山灰云。另外补充这个字的相关形容词Volcanic, V-O-L-C-A-N-I-C, volcanic, 有火山的或是由火山引发的意思。例如 An ancient city was buried beneath the deep volcanic ash. 一座古老的城市被埋在深深的火山灰之下。又或者说 On the mountain, we could smell volcanic gases coming out from the ground. 在山上我们可以闻到从地底下冒出的火山气体味道。再来我们看到动词 fascinate， 它的意思是使着迷或是使迷住。例如 The speaker fascinated his audience with stories about his travels. 那位演讲者的旅行故事让听众着迷。又或者说 Space has always fascinated David, so he wants to be an astronaut. 太空向来令 David 着迷，所以他想成为太空人。另外补充这个字的形容词 fascinating， F-A-S-C-I-N-A-T-I-N-G, fascinating. 它有迷人的、极好或是极美的意思。例如 Howard enjoys learning about elephants because he finds them fascinating. Howard 喜欢研究大象，因为他认为它们很迷人。又或者说 There are many fascinating sights to be seen as you hike up this mountain. 当你爬上这座山时，可以看到许多迷人的景色。接下来我们看到形容词 prominent， 这个字的意思是重要的、杰出的、著名的或是显著的。例如 Barbara's father has a prominent position in the university faculty. Barbara 的父亲在该大学教员中占有重要地位。或是 Taipei 101 is Taipei's most prominent site. 台北101大楼是台北最显眼的景点。
Volcanoes have fascinated humankind with their earth-shaking eruptions and fiery displays for ages. So it's true that human beings have been fascinated by volcanoes for a very long time. fascinate here means to interest and to delight in a certain way. So if you are fascinated, it means you are interested and you are delighted by something. And here, it's volcanoes that delight and fascinate human beings. And it's because volcanoes have earth-shaking eruptions. An eruption is a bursting forth or bursting out of something, such as lava, which is the very hot liquid that comes out of volcanoes. When a volcano erupts or when eruption occurs, it means fiery lava comes out of the volcano. And fiery means having a lot of fire or burning very strongly.
Yep, we love volcanoes, of course. They're fascinating. And the reason we are fascinated by them is because sometimes they have these earth-shaking eruptions. And they also have these fiery displays. Of course, that's when they erupt. And that's how we say a volcano gives off smoke and lava. It erupts. And an eruption, of course, is the noun form. And if something's fiery, well, it's like fire. And so we're always looking for news stories about various volcanoes around the world that are erupting or about to erupt. Like I remember when Mount St. Helens erupted way back, what was that, 1980 or something? That was quite some time ago. And then there was the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines in the 1990s, I believe. And of course, there are lots of other examples of volcanoes erupting.
Yes, and it's no wonder then that they've played prominent roles in myths from around the world. So we're saying that since volcanoes have fascinated humankind for such a long time, it's no wonder that these volcanoes or volcanoes around the world have played prominent roles in myths. Now, prominent means important or central, and since volcanoes have a role in myths, we can say that these roles aren't just minor roles, they're important roles. So they have a central place in myths from around the world. A myth, of course, is a story about a past, and it's different from legends because a myth is usually explains something that human beings want to understand, like how the world came about, why were humans created, is there a God? So myths answer such questions, such deep questions, whereas legends are just stories that don't have these deep philosophical meanings.
Yep, nowadays, of course, we have learned from science that volcanoes have to do with molten rock underground, and they have to do with plate tectonics and things like that. So we pretty much understand why they erupt, but in the past they had no idea, so they came up with these rather interesting stories, these myths that explained what volcanoes are all about, and we've got some interesting stories to present to you in today's program. So here are just a few of the many legends about these powerful forces of nature. A force of nature, of course, refers to a natural phenomenon like a volcano or an earthquake or a tornado or a typhoon. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's talk about a Greek myth concerning volcanoes right now.
The Greek god Hephaestus had a difficult beginning. Upon his birth, his mother Hera found him so ugly that she threw him down from Mount Olympus. Fortunately, some nymphs took him in and taught him to be a master blacksmith. He soon built a forge deep in the volcano Mount Etna, where he crafted the most beautiful jewelry and powerful weapons. And to this day, when Etna thunders with volcanic activity, people say it's the sound of Hephaestus's hammer.
最后第二部分，我们看到单字 forge， 它是名词，指的是熔铁炉，也可以是冶炼厂或是铁工厂。例如 We saw an ancient forge in the basement during our tour of a mid-century castle. 在参观一座中世纪城堡时，我们在地下室看到了一个古老的熔铁炉。另外，这个字也可以做动词使用，意思是锻造或是伪造。例如 Dwayne forged a successful career as a salesperson. Dwayne 锻造了成功的业务员生涯。又或者说 The painter forged one of Picasso's works and tried to sell it. 那位画家伪造了毕卡索的作品之一，并且尝试兜售。
The Greek god Hephaestus had a difficult beginning. Upon his birth, his mother Hera found him so ugly that she threw him down from Mount Olympus. So Hera is one of the major Greek gods and goddesses. She, in fact, was the wife of Zeus, and she gave birth to the god Hephaestus. And Hephaestus was indeed considered one of the ugliest deities, ugliest gods among the Greek gods. And Hera was so disappointed by his looks that she threw him down from the place where the gods lived. Mount Olympus is known as the home of the gods, of Zeus, of Hera, Apollo, Athena, and the rest of the family.
Yep, those are all Greek gods. They lived on Mount Olympus, and Hera did not like the appearance of her child when the child was born. So upon his birth, right when he was born, she threw him down from Mount Olympus. Fortunately, some nymphs took him in and taught him to be a master blacksmith. So fortunately, something good happened to the child after he was thrown down from Mount Olympus. We got some nymphs, who are these kind of spirits who live in nature. They're usually presented as a beautiful woman, but of course they're magical creatures. They took him in. If you take someone in, that means you let them in and you start taking care of them, especially if they're homeless or if they're in some kind of desperate situation. They took him in and then they raised him and they taught him to be a master blacksmith. And that's a person who works with metal. They heat up the metal and they strike it in order to shape it into various things.
Yes, he soon built a forge deep in the volcano Mount Etna where he crafted the most beautiful jewelry and powerful weapons. So Hephaestus was a blacksmith, and a blacksmith needs a forge. A forge is a place where a blacksmith or anybody else makes metal goods and equipment by heating up the metal. So he built a forge deep in the volcano Mount Etna. Now, Mount Etna is a real volcano, of course. It's an active volcano, and it's in Sicily, in Italy. And there he crafted the most beautiful jewelry and powerful weapons. Craft here means to make by hand. Usually it's to make skillfully. If you say someone crafted something, it means that person made it with a lot of skill.
Right, and he had a lot of skill to craft those pieces of jewelry and those powerful weapons. Of course, jewelry is what people wear on their bodies to make them look better. And to this day, when Etna thunders with volcanic activity, people say it's the sound of Hephaestus's hammer. So to this day, even up to modern times, people say that yes, when this mountain or this volcano thunders with volcanic activity, we're actually hearing the sound of Hephaestus working in his forge with a hammer. I can imagine that. That does sound like a big hammer bashing on some metal after it's been heated. And here we're using the word thunder as a verb. Thunder is usually a noun. Sometimes when you see lightning in the sky, it's followed by the sound of thunder. But here thunder is being used as a verb, which means it just creates the sound of thunder. And it thunders with volcanic activity. People can hear the volcano rumbling or the ground rumbling, and they think, oh, that's just Hephaestus working in his forge. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's go on now to Hawaii.
In a Hawaiian myth, the volcano goddess Pele, who lives in the volcano Kilauea, sends her sister Hiaka out to find Pele's lost love, Lohiau. In return, Pele promises to spare Hiaka's favorite forest from Kilauea's lava. Eventually, Hiaka succeeds in bringing Lohiau to Pele, but the impatient Pele has already destroyed Hiaka's forest. To take revenge, Hiaka seduces Lohiau, making Pele so jealous that she kills Lohiau with an angry eruption.
In a Hawaiian myth, the volcano goddess Pele, who lives in the volcano Kilauea, sends her sister Hiaka out to find Pele's lost love, Lohiau. So here we're talking about a myth in Hawaii, which is why we call it a Hawaiian myth. And in this myth, we have a volcano goddess. Her name is Pele, and she lives in a volcano called Kilauea. And she sends her sister, whose name is Hi'iaka, to find her own love, Pele's lost love, and this lost love's name is Lohiau.
Right, so of course Pele lives in the volcano and she's lonely and she misses her lost love. Where is Lohiau? I wonder where he went. Hey sister, my dear sister Hi'iaka, can you go out and look for him? I'm heartbroken. I'd like to get back together with him again. And in return, Pele promises to spare Hi'iaka's favorite forest from Kilauea's lava. So, of course, the sister would like to help out her sister, of course, but in this particular case, she might be demanding some sort of payment. Yeah, what are you going to give me in return? What are you going to give me for my favor? I'll do this for you, and then you can do something for me. So Pele promises, well, I tell you what, if you go out and find my lost love, Lohiau, I will spare your favorite forest from the lava from Kilauea. Okay, so if you spare somebody, you make sure that no harm comes to them when harm was going to come. So, for example, if you committed a crime in front of the king and the king was going to sentence you to death, for some reason the king might spare your life. Well, you still committed this crime. I still think you don't deserve to die, so I'm going to spare you. I'm not going to let you suffer the death penalty.
Right. You can also spare someone from an unpleasant situation or an unpleasant experience. For instance, I could say, I'll drive you to the airport. That way, you will be spared from having to carry your heavy luggage on the MRT. So, spare somebody from something can mean to keep them from danger, but also to prevent them from having to go through an unpleasant situation.
And here, spare, of course, is being used as a verb, but it could also be used as an adjective. It refers to something extra that you have, especially in your car. You probably have a spare tire in your car. In case you get a flat tire on the highway, you can just switch the flat tire out with the spare tire and you're good to go. But in this particular case, again, Pele wants her sister to go out and look for her lost love. And in return, she promises to spare her sister's favorite forest from the lava from that volcano that she was living inside of. Eventually, after a long period of time, finally, Hi'iaka succeeds in bringing Lohiau to Pele, but the impatient Pele has already destroyed Hi'iaka's forest. Okay, so she was impatient there. I guess her sister was taking too much time finding her lost lover. So she did find the lost lover. Hi'iaka found Lohiau and brought him to Pele, but it was too late. Pele was already impatient and had already destroyed the forest.
And of course, Hi'iaka was not happy about that, and she wanted revenge. To take revenge, Hi'iaka seduces Lohiau, making Pele so jealous that she kills Lohiau with an angry eruption. When you take revenge on somebody, you want to hurt or punish that person because they did something bad to you. So Hi'iaka wanted to take revenge on Pele because Pele destroyed her forest. And what she did to take revenge was to seduce Lohiau. To seduce means to make somebody give in to your temptation. So maybe Lohiau at first was really faithful to Pele, and he said, no, she's my true love, she's my girlfriend, she's my one and only. And Hi'iaka says, oh, but I really like you too. And Lohiau gives in to Hi'iaka and thereby allows himself to be seduced by her. And as a result, Pele was so jealous that she kills Lohiau with an angry eruption.
Interesting. Okay, so we got the phrase to take revenge. You could also say to get revenge on somebody. I've heard people here use the word revenge by itself. I'm going to revenge you, but no, we don't use it that way. You'd have to say, I'm going to get revenge on you, or I'm going to take revenge on you. I'm going to get back at you because you did something mean to me. I'm going to get revenge on you. And indeed, Pele had destroyed the forest. Hi'iaka was very upset about that, and she wanted to get revenge, so she seduced lo hiao. She started to come on to him, and she started to make herself kind of attractive so that he would be tempted. And I guess it worked because that made Pele very angry, and she did not take her anger out on her dear sister. She decided to take her anger out on her lover. How could you betray me like that? You're breaking my heart, so I'm going to get revenge on you by killing you. And of course, she had the power to do so because she could create an angry eruption from that volcano that she was living inside of. So there you have it. We've introduced a couple of volcano legends for you today. And please join us next time because we're going to introduce some more myths to you. We've got an Aztec one, and then we've got one from the Maoris in New Zealand. Okay, so please join us then. But right now we're going to listen to Hanny, our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分写到，希腊神赫菲斯托斯他有一个艰难的开始。他出生的时候啊，母亲希拉觉得他长得很丑，于是就把他从奥林帕斯山扔下去。好，文中是用 Upon his birth, his mother Hera found him 来表达说，他出生时，他一出生啊，母亲希拉就觉得他怎么样怎么样。好，那当我们用 upon 或者是用 on 后面加名词或动名词，然后逗号主词加动词，用这样的句型就可以表达意怎么样就怎么样。好，那么 upon 或是 on 加上名词或动名词，这部分我们可以把它摆在主要子句之前或是之后。那只是要特别注意，如果是用 upon 加动词 ing 或是 on 加动词 ing， 这个动作的主词啊，必须跟主要子句的主词一致。举例来说， Pam burst into tears on hearing the news. Pam 一听到消息就突然哭了起来。那这个例句里面我们用 on hearing the news， on 后面是接动名词 hearing， 那这个动作的主词就是 Pam， 跟主要子句的主词是同一人哦。好，另外有一些常见的句型也可以用来表达意怎么样就怎么样，像我们可以用 as soon as 主词加动词，逗号主词加动词这样的句型。那么 as soon as 也可以改用 once, the minute,The moment 等等来引导这个时间副词子句。举例来说， I'll text you once I get there。 那么 once I get there 也可以把它说成 as soon as I get there, the minute I get there 等等都可以。这个意思就是说我一到那里就会传讯息给你的。好，那课文接着写到说，幸运的是一些仙女收留了他，并教导他成为一名手艺高超的铁匠。那文中是用 took him in 来表达收留他。那么 take in 它就有这种收留收养的意思，那这时候可以写作 take somebody in 或是 take in somebody。 受词除了用人也可以用动物。举例来说， Our neighbor took in a stray cat last week。 我们的邻居上周收留了一只流浪猫。好，那这边也补充一下 take in 的其他用法哦。好，第一个 take in 呢可以表达观赏欣赏，我们可以用 take in something 来表达欣赏景色啊，参观景点，观看电影等等。举例来说，We sat on the beach and took in the view。 我们坐在沙滩上欣赏景色。第二个我们可以用 take in 去表达摄取吸收，那其实也可以表达像讯息啊、资料、知识等等的理解吸收。例如There was too much information to take in， 有太多资讯而无法吸收。好，那第三个 take in 可以表达欺骗、愚弄，通常是指欺骗、愚弄某人。那常常会用被动语态 somebody be taken in by 去表达说某人被什么什么给骗了。例如His parents were taken in by a scammer。 他的爸妈被一个诈骗犯给骗了。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Legend. Different cultures have various legends about how the world was created. Volcano. When the volcano erupted, it sent smoke high into the sky. Fascinate. Dr. Nelson's lesson about dinosaurs fascinated the class. Prominent. With his powerful speeches, the young mayor established himself as prominent politician. Myth. Kara's grandmother likes to tell Kara myths about how the animals got their unique characteristics. Forge. The blacksmith used the hot forge and a hammer to shape the steel sword. Craft. Jake carefully crafted a beautiful sculpture from the clay.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.